we're starting our Zoom presentation. First of all, we have a little bit of housekeeping. I want to welcome all of you this morning to the Muckensall Cultural Center here in Fullerton. We are doing a live Zoom link, which is being recorded, so we might even have a few people in Europe watching us, and then later on we will have a link and you can watch this again. If you've never been here before, I welcome you. This is, we have 9.5 acres. The building was built in 1925, and they're just about to celebrate their centennial in a few years. We have an outdoor amphitheater that holds 350 people. They have amazing Grammy Award-winning performances. So please take one of our, we have many programs, and this is called Wearable Art, a Catalyst for Conversation. And next week we have a sculptor, Brett Price, who's going to be opening his exhibition. I'm sure that you, when you arrived, you saw the large metal red sculptures in our garden that we're building. Those are his, and he will be taking over the entire interior of the space for the show. A couple of things just to let you know. We apologize for stanchions, but we are in the middle, believe it or not, of installing his exhibition. So you just refrain from putting anything on those areas, and you'd appreciate it. Restrooms are over here, and we have refreshments in the dining room. And I'm very excited to have this amazing panel here. This is, again, as I said, we're a large catalyst for conversation, and I'm just going to have this, and my daughter, I want to say thank you to a few incredible people. Corliss, we're missing you. People that have helped out. Scott works here at the Muckensall. He keeps everything running smoothly, and we thank you for keeping us cool and lit. And let's see. Anna. Thank you. She also runs Help Run, our education department, for our summer camps, of which we have 42 outreach programs. So when you're here today and you purchase something, that also helps support the educational department there. We've got Marsha Judd, who's not a panelist, but she's one of our lead educators. Just say hello. She also is part of the pop-up panel today, so I'm excited about that. And thank you to my daughter, Kiara. You can't see her because she's 14. She's going to be running the computer. Okay, ready? All right. So, to give you a quick previously. There's an exhibition of wearable art and a 42-minute presentation that's on a rotating basis that I just gave at the Bowers Museum. So that gives you a little bit of history of sculpture wear if you're not familiar with what wearable art is, how it was started, where it was started. Just briefly, I'm the second owner of Sculpture Wear Gallery, which was launched in New York City in 1973 in the Park Plaza Hotel. And to give you an idea, so this is Robert Lee Morris. You can check out his Vanity Fair article this month that just came out. He's just celebrating his 50th anniversary as a jeweler. The next piece, this is Angelica Houston, and she's wearing Alexander Calder's neck piece. That is actually at the Smithsonian, and that is seated next to an artist's work that I placed there, Jan Mendel. It's very exciting. It's very interesting. These are the talons here by Robert Lee Morris at the end. And this is the original owner, creator, and founder of Sculpture Wear, Joan Sonnabend. Man Ray, earrings made by Man Ray. So the idea is that you have fine artists, craftsmen, gorgeous designers who are well known in the fine arts realms, making this work. And this is 50 years ago. So she was already blurring the lines with what's art, what's craft. Okay, so I went in chronological order with our guests, just because I felt like it was easiest. Teri Brudnak, at the end, there you go. We met, and we think, if we're doing math correctly, 38 years ago in plastics technology class. And we were only there were 4 women in the entire class, and there were a lot of men in there, aerospace engineers and car designers. And we were basically taking up space, but as far as they were concerned. And Teri was there with her partner, Karen McCreary, and they were making jewelry for Star Trek: The Next Generation TV show. And they would be making pieces, and then all of a sudden, and she'll tell you, they would show up on the screen, and then the teasing quickly stopped. So Kiara, there we go. I digress for a second. So these are some of the early pieces that Teri made even before Star Trek. These are her pieces. These are sterling silver. These are on display in the exhibition space, so you'll have a chance to actually see these in person. They are extraordinary. And if you do acquire these, she will change out the medical tubing for you. Anyway, please see those. Go ahead. And then these are some of the drawings from Star Trek, some of the movies and things like that. And then this is Karen, whose work I also showed. Unfortunately, Karen's not with us anymore. And this illuminated piece is actually on one of Sherri Madison's dresses over there, and they do illuminate. She's with batteries. Okay, Karen, next. This piece was from the Voltage exhibition. And this was from SNAG. SNAG stands for Society of North American Goldsmiths, and they just celebrated their 50th anniversary, supporting artists and jewelry makers in the United States and I think beyond. Okay, let's go again. First Scott. Okay, I'm going to introduce John, and then John is 50% of Two Roses. And Corliss, his wife and maker, I don't know where's Corliss, but she's probably setting up jewelry. Okay. So I met Corliss and John probably in 2001 at my gallery at Berman Station. I think that they were he was the president at that point of MASIC, Metal Art Society of Southern California. Corliss was. Okay, see, they're the dynamic duo. Not only are they makers, they're married, they're travelers, they're also inventors. I mean, if I have a crazy question about how does this work, I just literally pick up the phone and call John. He's an amazing mentor. He is on the board of governors for the Art Jewelry Forum, and if any of you saw the newsletter, you saw Greg's amazing corset on the front of that newsletter. So I actually have to probably say thank you. Let's see, he's going to be talking about some of the products that he has designed, and maybe even the interactive space. I'm not sure if I can say that out loud, but we'll talk about that when we get to the questions. Yes? Oh, okay. It's big. I mean, it's a wow. So I don't want to reveal it. Okay, go, Kiara. So this is a circus piece. This is one of my favorite pieces. They are working with females of clay. And they have received more awards and accolades than I can count. And this also incorporates metal. And then this is a wave piece that is also a brooch. And I don't know if you have any of these pieces with you. They might either be sold or in exhibitions. Okay, let's go to the next one. And these are also, this is a brooch and a ring. Oh, and then, so I hosted a show called Feel the Frill, honoring Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And their collar that they submitted is made from pennies, and it's called Emancipation Collar. And it's over here, and they may have it today, I'm not sure. And then this is a photo shoot that we did with Lady Godiva with that piece. Swinda, Reichelt. Okay, I can't remember, I probably met you first. Before John, but it just worked out. So Swinda is from Europe, Germany, and she came to me, and we've had this interesting relationship for decades. Swinda is an incredible costume designer. You probably saw the zipper piece in the exhibition. You see some of these zipper pieces back here. She also made this single zipper red dress, and that's at 100 yards of a single zipper. She had to hand stitch each section. I was lucky enough to be able to wear that to the Grammys. So yeah, it's fantastic to wear something like that. It's so unique. Swinda has designed costumes for operas, for small theater and feature films. So she is now working on feature films, and she said to me, when I asked, would you be here? She said, well, I'm not sure. I have my production schedule. And then she also designs the clothing for Heidi Klum, correct? Wow. Yes, on one of the television shows. So we have a stellar lineup, and I'm only 50% through this thing. Okay, go honey, I have to show. So this is a zipper piece. You can unzip these pieces. The piece to your far right, far right, that's 1,000 zippers. It's a kimono. It's very heavy. It is fantastic. It was featured at the Laguna Art Museum. We hosted an event for them. It's fantastic. Okay, go. And these are for some recent photo shoots. What's really fun for me, knowing these people for so many decades and years, is that we get to kind of come full circle and collaborate. And so when she says, can you come and style this? She knows that I understand. There's no really direction. I already know what they look like. This is from a video. Swinda also designed these illuminations. They're called Perpetual Motion of Light, and it's really a museum installation. And there was an original score for these pieces. So this was a lot of fun. You'll see that next one. And then this is one of her original pieces that were actually featured at Sculpture Gallery. And then you'll see more of the collaboration there. And some of the jewelry from Teri Brudnak and some other pieces in here. Go ahead. Emma Trask, we're going to be very quick because she couldn't make it. Emma is the stylist and creator of, you see some of the pieces here. So she's basically taking clothing and then giving it a new life. This is a skirt. She put one arm in it. I did all the styling for these pieces, so that was a bit of a challenge. And so she'll take a piece of clothing and then cut off the arms and give it new life. And you'll see these all around the space. So she couldn't make it. She's the stylist for Carrie Underwood and handles her entire wardrobe for her Las Vegas performance. Okay, we'll just quickly show you. So there's a close-up of these, but you can see this when you're here. Okay. And I've been working with her for literally 20 years. She would call me. First we started, a rapport, and then we had a great styling relationship. Go ahead. And then here's Carrie Underwood at the Vegas show. Okay. Okay, Greg Orloff. Greg and I met at this show because the two Roses invited me. They invite me to a lot of interesting things. Greg happens to, he made that incredible, can you go to the next one? This corset, that's the other room, that won Best of Show. It's an international exhibition in the Palos Verdes Art Center, and it's made from twisted steel. It is awesome, and so is he. Okay, keep going. Here's another version, just because it's so big. Look at that. Okay, keep going. And then that's a tiara. So let me just tell you a little bit about the crystal pieces up here. These are repurposed crystal from crystal serving trays. So you have the vintage serving trays. They were broken. He said, let me give them new life. And that is what Greg has done. Okay, go ahead. Sherri, Madison, certainly last but not least, and how would we say that? So exciting. So one of my oldest and dearest friends who I've known since I was 17 years old, Kramer, he's not here. He is now the VP at the Cardboard City in Santa Monica Place Mall. They make amazing things with cardboard. And we were at the opening, Carol and I, and he said, Lisa, you have to meet Sherri. You have to know each other. And all of a sudden, it was just, everything went gray. It was just Sherri and I, sharing the cardboard and world art stories. So she has made these amazing pieces in the back. The cardboard, those are made from dresses. The cardboard, everything there. And as you entered, there was a display with green purses. Everything you see made from cardboard. And there is this beautiful set of wing doors here, also made from cardboard. And they are strategically placed lower so that you can stand in front of them, take photos, please. Sherri, we're gonna get more into her inspiration and all of that, but she is incredible. She was, you may have seen her on the HBO show Craftopia. So that's how we met, that's our story. I love what she does. And we do have a very famous clothing designer with us this morning as well. Max, would you mind standing up for us? We're serious. So you can follow him on Instagram at Couture to the Max. He's incredible. I hope to be inviting him back. Anyway, so that was just kind of the brief intro for everyone. And we're going to do, these are going to be some basic questions. We want to talk about the first kind of series about how did you get started? What was a catalyst? We're also going to talk about mentorship when you were younger and now. That's going to be kind of the second round series. And we're also going to talk about PR, press, interrelationship with that. And we're also going to talk about going forward, what current projects you're working on, what you can look forward to, and also just open it up to anything that you think we've forgotten to tell people or that you really want us to know. I'm going to keep this open. I really want it to be juicy. We have an open forum worldwide. I'm not sure who's watching, and if you have to let people in, they might have questions. And then at the end, we'll open this up. And of course, we'll be here for another few hours for our event and sale. So, Teri.
I grew up in Hesperia in the high desert and went to a one-room schoolhouse. It was, it had a pot stove, no floor. And that's why I went to kindergarten. And the kindergarten teacher told my mother, your kid is an artist and you better buy lots of crayons and paper or she's going to decorate your house. And yeah, I did. I actually carved into one of her purses. White leather purse. And also the old Zenith black and white TV cabinet. I did some engraving on that. My dad was a B-17 pilot in World War II and came back to the U.S. He lived in Chicago, married my mother, and they moved out to California. And he got a job at a Air Force base out near Victorville, George Air Force Base, and now it's a transit club. But he flew everything. He flew like big transport planes. He can drive a truck. He flew F-15s. They used to have an air show every year, and I would go to the air show and watch my dad fly. He had a civilian job on the base as an electrical engineer. Well, my dad had a detached garage where he would tinker in his off hours. And he used to build electronics, things like hi-fi sets and kits that he would buy. And I would sit at his workbench all the time and think that I could build anything. Magical plates together and things would happen. He helped me build the Jacob's ladder, which is one of those things that goes up and then sparks and rocks. And I won science fair.
All right.
So, but I was still an artist. It's interesting, early interest in technology. And when I got into high school, my dad and I used to watch Star Trek, the first series, the original series, every Friday night when it first came out, without fail, no dates. Date was Star Trek. So I was just, enamored of space and space travel and science fiction. And I read all the great science fiction authors. I was a voracious reader. And when I went away to college, I thought I was going to be a drawing and painting major. But I met this amazing guy, Alvin Pine, who was teaching a 3D design class for the undergrads. And Alvin was this gruff New York goldsmith. He wore overalls all the time, had a scraggly beard, but he knew how to teach. He showing you how to work with materials and how to develop design. And the way he talked to the students was the way I wanted to teach when I grew up to be a teacher. I really wanted to emulate it. So I followed him over to the jewelry medicine department. And I took my first beginning jewelry class. And I went, man, this is tedious. This is hard. I'm breaking all these saw blades. My hands are a mess, but I loved it. And I met other people there, like my partner, Carrie Underwood, who just absolutely was my soul sister. And we became, you know, these partners. And after I graduated, I got my MFA there in 1980 in medicine and jewelry. After I graduated, I was teaching for a while at some of the area colleges. And I ended up starting a business with Karen in 82 or 83. And we went and did all the American Craft Council shows and Coast to Coast. And we met Bill Tice, the original costume designer from Star Trek: The Next Generation. And he was at the show at Santa Monica we were doing. I was like, oh my God, this is the guy. This is the guy. You know, I just absolutely go. And he said, I'm looking for somebody to redesign the rank tips, the little rank buttons on the collar to keep falling off. They had to send the uniforms out to be cleaned all the time, you know, and they had to take them off when they put them back on. So Karen and I redesigned them using ear piercing studs, which are like super heavy duty stainless steel, and they were cast into bronze. And somebody was selling a set of those on online for like $3,500. The captain set the other day.
A few months ago, yeah.
But you know what we used to do? They send them in to us, and we would like take them all apart and send them new ones and keep the ones they want to show. Because we knew that someday they would be worth something, you know. But anyway, it led to all kinds of requests for doing like alien badges for like these alien bureaucrats and Klingon belt buckles and earrings for Major Barrett, who was played like son of Troy. And yeah, I worked with them for about 5 years. It's great. But in '92, I decided, because of the recession, that I really needed a steady income with a pension. And I went back to teaching, which is great. So I taught computer graphics, digital photography, animation, and I taught a lot of digital applications. And I was all mostly self-taught. So I would spend a lot of time my summers just teaching myself digital media applications. I'm really certain that that was part of my technology background that led me that way, because now I use technology when I design my work, or I make my work. I do my drawings, I scan them, I redraw them in Illustrator. In Illustrator, I can distort them, I can multiply them, I can enlarge them, shrink them, do all kinds of things you can't do with a pencil and paper. So,
So steam even then.
yeah,
No,
well,
back then.
and you know, I
Seems
taught 3D animation, so now I'm working with my 3D programs to do 3D printing. But I've also gotten into something called 3D fractals. And if you're familiar with fractals, they're a repeating pattern. They're seen all through nature. And in 2015, I found an image online and tracked it down to a program that was made by these people and sent out to everybody for free, where you could make fractals in 3 dimensions. So you would turn them around in space, in virtual space. You could fly through them and animate them. And I went, okay, I'm learning this. And it was only my background in 3D that allows me to get my brain wrapped around it, because it's really a neat program.
Like a metaverse.
There's no manuals on it, you know, you have to like be part of a group online and ask questions. So I've been doing a lot of fractal work, and it's leading me in interesting directions. The necklace that Lisa has on is called Astral Passage, and that was inspired by the Webb telescope. I watched a
It's also
documentary about, they moved around. A documentary about 6 months ago on the Webb, on the building the Webb telescope. And I was totally bowled over. I was just totally amazed. And it was that amazing inspiration that just kept coming into my mind and saying, okay, you gotta use that hexagon shape, that will shape the mirror. And you gotta have things that move, because the planets, they move. And you gotta have light. It has to have some kind of way to generate light. So this is the most recent thing, and now that the pictures are coming back, I know everybody is so amazed, and this is just the beginning. But what it's done is giving us hope. It's giving us hope because we now have a way to look at the distant past of our universe and see ourselves in relation to that. And so our troubles here on Earth are not as bad as they seem when you see that we're all part of that amazing, gorgeous expanse out there. Any questions?
Well, we're gonna, oh, I guess we could do that.
Yeah.
I think let's go. Thank you. Okay, that was amazing. Cool. So what we might want to do is break it up. So John, just a little intro. Or however we want to do this. We're doing this kind of in a loose way. Here we go. I should have been more structured. So John, I'm gonna let you go. Here we go. This is again John and Corliss Rose. This is just John.
What you're going to see today, what we're going through right now is the many different paths that people take into the arts. And you're going to see a lot of intersection on this path. And speaking for myself, I came up through the traditional apprenticeship system. I knew by age 5 that I was very focused, directed. I was going to be an artist. That was my choice in life, and I knew that. And my parents fortunately supported that. And they were very adamant that if you are going to be an artist, you're not going to be a starving artist. You're going to learn how to make a living doing this. And that's what got me into apprenticeships. And by the time that I was 14, I was actually working professionally. And by the time I got into college, I'd already had 3 businesses. And by the time I got out of college, I had several more and traveled to quite a few places around the world and have been working with a variety of companies. And one of the things that I found in my early career, I thought that I was going to be a painter or sculptor. And what I did is evolved through many different mediums and types of practices. And ultimately, what I learned was that the value that I could add and make a living with is providing solutions quickly, applying creativity to all sorts of different things. And some of those different things were developed of the lens systems for the IMAX theater. We worked on those famous tiles on the space shuttle, our heat resistance. I'm very proud to say that there's part of me up on Mars on the rover. And we've done a lot of work with AI. Recently, I mean, the new things that we're working on are transitional programs that take and create visual images, I guess, not just images, a lot of different things, using artificial intelligence. And the interesting intersection along that path, Teri's over here doing costume design for Star Trek, And I came in right behind her, did set design for Star Trek. And so, you know, we've gotten involved in everything from the film industry to a couple, 4 or 5 years ago, we did some pioneering programs on robotics and robotic surgery, which was, even as I was doing it, it was blowing my mind. You could have a surgeon in Irvine, California, performing heart surgery in Germany through the use of robotic machines. So the path to the arts, and of course, you've seen that all of that comes back to jewelry and small sculpture. Oddly enough, we're known for doing things with very odd materials. And so a fairly substantial part of our jewelry practice is people bring us their surgical implants. I'm working on 2 projects right now. One is a pacemaker. The other is spinal implants that I wore around 15 years. And he goes, you know, I want to wear these on the outside. And that's very common. Like, oh, I've worn these now, I'm gonna, you know. And we figure out ways to make into and so many paths to the arts. And you know, Lisa, thank you very much for inviting us here today.
Oh, you're very welcome. Can you believe what you just said? This is fascinating. You thought you were coming here for pretty objects. This is not about pretty objects. These are amazing stories. I've never heard a lot of these, so thank you. Okay. You just as his wife was he's just scratching the surface. So I think, are we with Swinda? And also,
Teri, could you just maybe pass there you go. You can hold it or not.
thank you. All right. We're gonna
Go ahead. Well, I mean, I really have to say to both of you, the stories, I don't think I can read that story at all. I'm coming from a complete wall, I think, and I grew up in a theater family. My stepfather was a theater director, and I literally grew up backstage. But my mother was also very young, and it was, I grew up also in East Germany, so in a completely different system. My mother was 16 when she got me, so she was super young, and she started studying literature and had no time for me. And I decided, and I was in kindergarten, and I was 4 years old, to ask the woman who came in to pick up her children. I don't know them, but I remembered her, and I loved her, and asked her to be my mother. And she said yes. So she had 2 kids. It turned out she was the art professor in the art academy in town. I grew up on her sofa. I slept on her sofa 5 nights a week. I mean, my mother was happy. I was in safe hands. She took care of herself. I took care of myself. And I couldn't. It was amazing. This woman literally taught during the day in the academy, and at night she was working on huge textile garments. I mean, like fabric appliques, woven carpets, like for wall pieces, gigantic. And I slept on the sofa just watching. She never taught me anything. She didn't taught me sewing, or she didn't taught me nothing. But I literally, I slept with it. So I'm really thankful that this woman was in my life and is in my life. Yeah, so this is how the whole thing started, I think. And then when I was 11, I started hand sewing things. My first pants was hand sewn. Everything was like, and my stepfather couldn't bear it anymore and bought me an old Singer sewing machine. You know, it was great because we had a lot of brownouts, so I could work even with candlelight because I didn't need electricity. So it's like, yeah, so this is how the whole thing
started. And from there, I never stopped. I can say it's like everything, and I think that was because of my adopted mom, Inga. It's like I was inspired by comics. I'm inspired by zippers. I'm inspired by anything what I see. I mean, even you or what I see with you guys right now inspires me, you know, for next projects. And yeah, sure enough, I started studying costume design and went into opera theater and yeah, that's pretty much my story. Lisa and I know each other since centuries, and I'm really begging her, and I'm making it public right now to have her own gallery pretty soon, hopefully.
I
Because
love
we
that
artists,
idea.
we artists need you.
Yeah.
Need you. Thank you.
So, Swinda, thank you for that, and that's a unique experience, and relationship. I think with the advent of social media, that younger kids, younger generations, they don't really understand that original traditional relationship with galleries, gallery owners, representing artists. I'll just quickly tell you that when I first opened my gallery, Berman Station in 1999, if the artist lived locally, I would ask them to work in the gallery, not 3 days a week, but 3 times separately. Once for a setup that wasn't their exhibition, once for an opening that wasn't their exhibition, and once for a breaking down of an exhibition that wasn't theirs. And so that they can understand, why are these gallery owners taking 50% of the retail price? And I can tell you, not one argued after those 3 interactions. And there's a lot more to it, and that's probably another panel, fascinating. But I would like to get back to that. Thank you, Swinda. All right, Mr. Greg.
Oh, where do I start? I just heard a whole lineage here. I feel like the young guy here in the room. But well, it's okay. You know, like, I've always been a maker my entire life. Like, I started out, my mom would ship me off to New Jersey, grew up in St. Louis. So the summers, I went to Jersey with my grandparents. My grandparents were automotive Audi and Volkswagen mechanics. And so that's where I spent my summers. I learned how to work on cars, how to build things. Like, I can build a car from like the ground up, you know. I wish I had the shop to do it. But it's interesting, like, kind of reflecting back on how I grew up. Like, my parents worked for the airlines. It was very like, I went from blue collar to white collar. And I consider myself like more of a blue collar worker, you know, like always worked hard, got like experience. I knew how to weld when I was 12 years old, you know, TIG welding by 14. And so like when I like, and it was sort of, I feel like some of it was suppressed as far as being like a creative. My parents wanted me to have a career that would support, like, have a pension, have all the funds. But, you know, like, I realized once I went into college, like, I was like a B to C student. And then when I got into college, I relearned how to like operate my brain. I'm ADD, like, I operate on a totally different level. But I learned pretty quickly, like, I went from being a B to C student to 4.0 for the entire college degree. And I was going into graphic design, and I realized I was like, I hate this. like, I was very good at working on the computer and doing digital design. I've been doing it for years prior to college. And then my art mom, Joe Steely, who was head of the fibers department, pulled me aside one afternoon. I think I was like my second year in. She says, "What are you doing? Like, this is not you. Like, you love what we're doing here in this shop, in the fiber studio, paper making, you know, and casting those forms and making sculpture." And I was like, you know what, you're right. So I dropped out of the graphic design program and went full-blown sculpture. And from there, things kind of really took off. I did installations for free, you know, like found object assemblage, large sculptures, robots, jetpacks, ray guns, and that really like, it made me happy, and I realized something about myself, to trust myself, like where I was gonna go, where, like, it's a scary field to walk into as far as an artist, you know, like freelance and do something that like, wow, I'm not having a day-to-day job, you know, it's like my day-to-day is what I make, you know. So from there, I got into jewelry due to the fact that I wanted to travel. And I knew this kind of early on before I left Columbia, Missouri. And then like I studied under this Southwest Navajo jeweler, did an apprenticeship. And he would have me doing all the grinding for the castings. And he'd be like, boy, get in here. I would, yes, sir, Mr. Kenny Green, yes, sir. He's very stern, very good teacher. And he's like, let me feel your hands. And he'd swipe my hands and he's like, you ain't got enough callus on your hands. Get the back on the grinder. But you're grinding, it's like, it's hot, you know, it's like friction. So anyway, traveled all over the US, did internships, wherever would house me and feed me. Like, I lived like a hobo for a while. Traveled to Europe, just whatever funding I could get. I got really good at grant writing, worked for a nonprofit, raised them quite a bit of money, and then I fundraised myself to get out here to LA. So, you know, I had to pull together about $28,000. I did it. I did 30. So, but that's kind of what like jump-started me here in LA, and all my family's out here in Los Angeles. My dad grew up out here, cousins are out here. So that was kind of like the pivotal moment of like, where do I go next? And so here it is. I'm here 7 years now, and almost a native. But you know, I think the bigger thing, this is where I'll close. But I think the bigger thing and the passion that I have as a maker is also carrying on the history of what you guys have done, you know, as makers, as teachers, as artists. I think that's really crucial. You know, like the digital world is very interesting, but you know, making something from scratch, from hand, is powerful. And it's healing too. Like that's what keeps me alive every day. So it's good. And I thank Lisa for everything too. This is incredible that you're here.
It's my honor to be able to show this work, and I also, because we're going to lead into Sherri, that authenticity is such, it's the baseline of who these people are every day, and being able to hear their stories is so powerful, and I love the fact that you, oh, okay, right.
Making me tear up a little bit.
It's a very emotional space because we've known each other for sometimes almost 4 decades here. It's a very strong bond. We move in and out of each other's lives, techniques, things like that. We have a few people in the back. If you'd like to just come on in, we've got lots more space. Come on in. There we go. And so I'm really honored that you're here, and we're documenting this. And it will be recorded on Zoom. This is just a starting point. I'm so excited to, now we're gonna move on to Sherri, and I'm sorry, I didn't, my daughter told me that I forgot to show Sherri's images, but you've seen so many of them and you're surrounded by them. So again, for the newcomers, this is Sherri Madison. She is the cardboard queen. And she is I just met her 3 weeks ago. So not 3 years or 3 decades, but literally 3 weeks ago from Aaron Kramer. So Sherri, go ahead.
Yeah, it feels like I know you a lot longer here. It was a magical moment. So I think all these stories kind of intertwine. It's so interesting. Like in COVID, you're kind of in a vacuum there, operating as artists and not meeting a lot of other artists. And it's so nice to like be all you. So I grew up in the military. My father was
And I think I knew from the time I was 2 that I was an artist, but we moved all the time, so as you can imagine, there were cardboard boxes everywhere. I have been working with cardboard since forever. But then, like around the time I started studying classical oil painting, I did that for most of my career. And then came along the pandemic, and I had kids, and I took about 8 years off. I was trying to like get back to work. And I was kind of looking for what am I going to do next, and kind of burned out oil painting. And I kept thinking, like, it'll come to me, it'll come to me. And then during the lockdown, I opened my door one day, and here's the Amazon guy with like, 1,000, I couldn't even see him. It was like this stack of boxes. And it was just a lightning moment. Like, this is it. This is my medium. What am I doing? I'm so good at this. I'm already doing it. I've been doing it forever. I just, there was no social media. And so, like, I never showed anyone what I was doing. And so someone suggested, like, start putting it on Instagram. So, like, I was already making stuff. So I put it on Instagram. And then it kind of blew up. And, like, HBO found me. And, now I'm, like, so excited to do all these different things. Cardboard City, and World of Wearable Art, and all that. But, yeah, it was a big pivot from traditional oil painting to cardboard, but not really. It was always like in there. Yeah, so I think the couture, and I do a lot of like artwork you can actually hang on the wall, but for me, it's become very important to spread the message of reusing, not just recycling cardboard, but actually reusing it. And so couture, I kind of felt like, what's the most dramatic way to get the message out there? And it's really someone wearing it. Because it draws a lot of attention. That's where I'm at now. Later this month, I'll be in New Zealand at the World of Wearable Art, and I have a piece made out of Amazon freezer bags, which is up for rewards. I'm very excited about that.
Everyone's being so humble here because just to give you an idea, I don't know if I thought about this in my sleep last night, but the world of wearable art is like the Venice Biennale in the art world. It's like the Grammys for a singer. It's the Oscars of wearable art. It is incredible. And I would love to bring that type of show here to the United States. Just to give you an idea, and Sherri can tell you more about it, she had to send her pieces, and they practiced wearing her particular outfit 60 times, is that true? Before they actually opened the stage. And it was started in a high school auditorium in Auckland, New Zealand. And then they went on to a larger theatrical stage, wasn't large enough. Then they had to take it to the soccer field. And it is literally on it's an indoor stage now, but they had it on a soccer field, and they had to reheat it twice in the evening for 8 days in a row to accommodate all of the people. They have their own museum now called the World of Wearable Art. You can look it up. It is so exciting. So I'm thrilled to have this incredible panel here. And you've talked, and Sherri, maybe when I visit you to see your pieces, tell us a little bit about your mentor. Other people have talked about, you have a very special LA mentor.
Call him a friend and a mentor for over a decade. Unfortunately, he passed recently, but he really taught me, like, I would say, when I met him, I was still an oil painter, and I was doing a lot of water and light. We had that in common. And then I moved into cardboard like much later, but he really taught me more about the business part, and sort of like steered me away from pitfalls that most of us. And to be honest, he taught me a lot of things that I still had to learn on my own. It's kind of like a little bit of a father figure, like, don't do this. And I still did it. And I was like, you're right. There's a lot of that. He's a big influence.
And if you're not familiar with Peter Alexander's work, he was one of the first Angelino artists to actually paint on black velvet. He did the scenes overlooking the LAX from, say, the Hollywood sign. So any variation of that theme, every major museum in certainly the United States, but most likely internationally, has at least one or more of those images. So That was Sherri's mentor. Let's see. I know, Teri, you talk a lot about process. Do you want to talk about, are there any projects that you talked a lot about what you're doing now. Is there anything that you think we're missing or need to know? By the way, for some of the people that just showed up, you missed some wonderful stories which will be recorded on Zoom. This is not about beautiful jewelry. There are a lot of inventors, scientists, makers, publicity makers. It is really an exciting panel up here, and I'm so excited. So I would just kind of open it up if there's anything you wanted to know, and also any questions that we have out here. Any questions specifically for anyone? Otherwise, we'll kind of do this one last round. Okay, go ahead.
How does science play the role in your artwork?
Good STEAM questions.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge. It's like very central to what I do. In fact, I belong to this Gentlemental Society, and I love cutting stones too. I love the natural world, but they were given a big donation of a jeweler's estate, and nobody wanted this big jeweler's microscope. And they said, "Do you want it?" I said, "Are you kidding?" And it's just a very amazing tool that allows jewelers to set tiny little diamonds. But I can see that tool can be used for miniature work, like doing miniature painting for enamels, working on seeing the natural world in closer detail and replicating and using it for inspiration. But I know I have an application, I have many applications for it that are outside of traditional uses. I'm like, why did this tool come into my life right now? Because it's part of the technology that I love so much. And when you send out that message, that vibe, the universe responds, and it gives you what you need, and you didn't know you need until you receive it. So, yeah, new technology is coming into my work.
Now, I would add, the technology is art. And you cannot separate it today. Look around, almost every single person in this room is carrying a cell phone, which is also a camera, which is it's a multi-use device. And a lot of the artwork that even some of us make here were designed on that cell phone. The pervasive, I guess, use of technology within the arts, 3D modeling, laser cutting, design, it's all encompassing. I mean, you cannot be in the arts today and not use technology. I do a lot of work with auction houses and museums doing restoration. And frequently I'm working on something from the 16th century. And we still have to use a significant amount of technology to understand how that piece was made, metallurgy, the various components, to understand how to restore it and not destroy it. Also, Lisa alluded to this, I'm involved with a multimedia group of artists. And this is one of the things that you're going to see more of as we move forward. Artists are forming consortiums and large collaborative groups where you get not 2 or 3 artists working together in a group, but 100 artists from all over the world working in a single group to create, produce an art project which doesn't hang on a wall, but is in fact a completely immersive environment. Now you've seen there's these popular displays of Van Gogh or Klimt or some other artists that you sort of walk through. Well, these are projection models. They're just the tip of the iceberg, I should say. The truly immersive, interactive types of things are entire buildings that you interact with, and words cannot describe them. There are several, there's 4 or 5 of them now that have been produced in the United States. There's one in Denver, there's one in Las Vegas that we just finished doing. And so anyway, the technology that's involved in these kind of things goes beyond designing something on a computer screen. It now becomes the entire environment that you are in. And the environment changes and reacts to what you are doing. In sound, sight, touch, all kinds of things. So it's a brave new world.
Can you tell us what they are called?
Yeah.
Well, there's one of the groups is Meow,
Super cool.
and they have 3 exhibits. Yeah, you can look them up online. It'll blow your mind. You'll love it. Meow is the production, and but there are others that are out there. And
Is that like meow, like cats?
yes,
Wolf? Okay. Just making sure.
exactly.
Just sounds Sound.
Yeah. And that represents certainly the cutting edge technology, but more importantly, you're seeing a new dynamic in terms of how artists work together. To give you a little historical perspective, the arts back in the 1850s was very collaborative. We had groups of artists working in groups.
Yeah.
And then we sort of progressed to it being those little lone starving artists, is that how it is? You know. And it was became very much of a singular type of effort. And now we're back to 100 artists working on a single project. And it calls into question the creative part of it and how much of that is engineering. And you know, it was very much the same sort of process when we were working on space shuttle stuff. Huge teams of people coming together for a single goal. So anyway, that's some of the technology. And that I'll talk later about artificial intelligence and how that is also.
Did the founder, did he recently die? Is this natural? Is that what?
Yeah.
And that's something we can do. I'd love to do some type of wearable art panel at a space center. That would make sense to me after hearing these stories. And I just, this collaborative effort that comes to mind, and we're going to kind of wrap it up in a few minutes, but collaborative effort, because Swinda, she was film productions, now she does feature films. She has a lot of people helping her, working for her, assistants. And so that's again, this whole collaborative process. And I think that idea of moving away, no one wants to be a starving artist. And I think that full collaboration is key in anything that we do, you know, in life. And even producing this wearable art event for you has been a huge collaborative process, especially by these artists. So thank you for your help. Anyone else want to talk about either collaboration or?
I just want to say this, like, I think as an artist, we are always inspired also by nature and science and technology, and like actually everything included. And my work is like, it's very interesting because I'm not, it's not the book collection so much, it's my new work, what I'm doing right now. What is kind of, I call them aqualumen, and they're light sculptures with smart lights and technology, you can change the lights, you can change the colors, but also you can change the whole atmosphere and touch and the feel. And a lot of people telling me that they look like secret creatures or underwater, inspired, it's like, there could be jellyfishes, there could be, all sorts of, I'm not a diver. I don't know why, I saw these images or whatever, but I never saw them in person, but I'm creating them in my life. So, and I call them my COVID babies, I created them through COVID. And so maybe there was my need to be in nature, my need to be surrounded with something beautiful and sensual. Instead of, I had a lot of people calling me, I'm getting depressed. I'm not. I'm sorry. So it's like, I don't think we can ever, say we are not inspired what surrounds us, whatever that is. And it's some people it's politics, some people, it's nature, some people more into science, but science is everywhere, what we are touching and what we are doing. And and then also the time changes our visions. From me, from a costume, from a on a body of somebody. I'm a master of costume and too, so I'm understanding the boning and all the structure. And so at one point, it was like this point, it was around when I met Lisa, I just turned the whole dress upside down. It was like a flower, a giant flower. And I was like, okay, stop here. Let's revisit here what I'm actually doing. And then I got more inspired by just turning things around what we think has to be that way. And I was like, no, it doesn't. And that's also the fun part that I'm working with Lisa. It's like every time I'm coming to the exhibition, she's bringing it completely different. What I created, and I love it. I love it because this is meant to be. It's not meant to be just that what it is best.
And
no, I don't want to call it best.
And so what happened is there's a tunic there by Emma Trask, and it was so small it wouldn't fit actually on the mannequin. And I thought, oh my gosh, there are kids coming here. I can't just leave that like that. What do I do? And so that's what this one is. And I really appreciate the artistic license that these artists allow me. They trust me to know that I will honor their work with my own creative thumbprint. And I just draped, her skirt is actually a vest, draped sideways. And then there, I love it. So yeah, so that's, again, the trust factor is about being professionals and allowing people to interact and do these fun things. So there's one more person before we, are there any questions from the Zoom or anything that you're seeing? Oh, and Marsha, yes, I have one more person I'm going to introduce, and then Marsha has a question.
I have a question. So all of you really come from an artistic, a trained background, and in looking at each and every one of your work, the craftsmanship is the apex of what we should all aim for. Noticing some of our younger friends coming up, how do you guys address or help them cross that bridge and say, you're not just an artist, but you're also a craftsman. You come from a craftsman tradition, and help them, foster that idea of this is a disposable, throwaway, and help them understand our tradition as being craftspeople as well as being expressive artists.
I'd like to answer to that. As the pandemic really messed a lot of things up, and I was teaching, quite a bit out of my studio. And one of the most amazing things, and what I take a lot of pride in, is showing them, I have a whole range group of ages, and I'm still getting emails, and I'm still trying to reboot my classes, but the curiosity and helping somebody, no matter what age it is, young, older, whatever, it's like, what do I know? But getting them to a point of seeing aha, you see the light go off, and when you see somebody like drop that piece of solder and they see it flow, like, they're like, oh my God, I'm like, this is so. I mean, it's kind of like, again, what I was kind of alluding to earlier, it's like, I feel that I belong to like a history and a legacy of like generations of makers for hundreds and hundreds of years. Like, I mean, when I was out in Europe, I got a scholarship to go to West Dean, I believe it was, to go take a weekend workshop or 5-day class. And they had like the soldering, the torches where you had to blow through. And I'm like, that's how you powered the flame to get it hotter. That was incredible. And then we had the flux. You had to grind it yourself. It was totally like way back in the era. And so like have that experience and be able to tell those stories and then implement the new tools of today, like laser, like what John was specifically like, talking about, what, you know, like implementing sense, like the science of everything and sharing, like that's powerful, like, and to help people like succeed with like understanding processes. Like there's no better feeling in the world, you know, it's really, really incredible. And to facilitate that is, I'm humbled to facilitate that. So hopefully I get my classes back on here soon.
Well, Greg, I think you expressed it perfectly earlier.
Yeah.
When discussing your mentors.
Yeah.
You don't have enough calluses yet.
Yeah. Practice. That's right.
I want to close with two things. One, we also have Deborah Passwaters. She arrived, she's in the front row. There is an incredible diptych painting in the exhibition space called Goddesses. It takes the entire wall. It is gorgeous, and she's a fine artist from Laguna Beach, and she has a studio there, and so we're so delighted to have the Wearable Art Catalyst for Conversations, and you can have an opportunity to speak with her as well, and her daughter's here too. One thing I just want to close with in regards to the work that you're seeing here, probably for some of you, it's the first time you've ever seen wearable art, and wearable art at this level is museum quality. I've been doing this for the past 25 years with my gallery sculpture. As I said, I was the second owner. And this work is not just collected in craft museums, it's collected in fine art institutions globally now. I've placed work at the Getty, the Smithsonian, LACMA, MoMA, and they're viewing these works and as fine art. And I have to say, a lot of it has to do with technology. So that convergence between artistic license, by the way, which is a show that Marsha is heading up. It'll be here in November, so keep that on your calendar. Technology has a lot to do with that. So glad that you were here today. I'm glad that you are here to experience some of the pieces, take photographs, share your stories. You get an opportunity. I have to tell you, this is a stellar lineup, and I'm so proud.
Actually, my son Max had a fashion show, and so for all the girls, I made persons to go with their It's not with like this pretty rainbow dress.
So Max, can I model something so I can get a purse next time? Max he'll get to know as well. So thank you very much. Thank you, Zoom, for joining us, whatever country you're joining us from. Thank you again for everyone who worked so hard to bring this to fruition. Really appreciate it. And now we're having our pop-up sale. So you actually get to take some of these things home. So thank you very much. Again, my name is Lisa Berman, curator here at the Muckenthaler. And I'm also happy to bring any type of exhibition like this to one of your institutions via Sculpture Wear. Thank you again, and thank you
panelists. I really appreciate your time.